Hello and welcome to Levant TV headlines. Syria says that it supports any international effort to combat jihadists hours after a US-led coalition launched strikes against the Islamic State group in the war-torn country. Turkey has declined to either confirm or deny reports that dozens of Turkish hostages abducted by Islamic State militants in Iraq were set free in exchange for the release of IS militants held by Syrian rebels. Israeli troops have killed 2 Palestinians in the southern West Bank city of Hebron in suspicion of killing the 3 Israeli teenagers in June. An Israeli delegation has arrived in Cairo for indirect talks with Palestinians, as senior Hamas negotiator Ezet al-Rishk said the Palestinian team turned back in protest after hearing of the Hebron incident. And outgoing Afghan President Hamid Karzai has used his farewell speech to take a parting shot at the United States, accusing Washington of waging a war against Taliban insurgents for its own ends. Now let's take a look at the top headlines in today's newspapers in the Middle East. Starting with the UAE, the Khalij Times leads, reporting that Saudi Arabia's second crown prince, Mokrem bin Abdul Aziz, said that Islam had been tarnished by forces of darkness and Saudi Arabia should do more to protect its youth from violent extremism. The paper also reports that a study conducted by the Community Development Authority found that UAE nationals top the list of people taking loans in Dubai, with most people borrowing from banks to buy a car. The Egypt Independent leads, reporting that 8 defendants who appeared in a video allegedly showing the country's first gay marriage will be tried before a misdemeanor court today on charges of inciting debauchery. The paper also reports that work resumed normally at the Foreign Ministry yesterday, a day after the blast that occurred in the vicinity of the ministry in the Bulak Abdul Elah neighborhood. And from Lebanon, the Daily Star reports that the United States launched air and missile strikes with Arab allies in Syria for the first time today, killing dozens of ISIS fighters and members of a separate al-Qaeda-linked group, and widening its new war in the Middle East. The paper also reports that Maronite Patriarch Bashar al-Rai has underlined the need to endorse administrative decentralization amid the corruption plaguing Lebanese state institutions. Now let's take a look at the top Middle East headlines from the UK papers. The Telegraph leads its Middle East news, reporting that 5 Arab countries are supporting the US air campaign against ISIS targets in Syria, according to the Pentagon, but only Jordan says that its planes have actually carried out airstrikes. The paper says the other 4 countries have kept silent, raising questions over whether they are flying bombing missions or confining their role to offering bases and opening their respective airspace. The Guardian leads, reporting that Britain's main political parties are moving towards an agreement to recall Parliament on Friday to allow MPs to approve British involvement in airstrikes against Islamic State forces. The paper says David Cameron, who will attend a meeting of the UN Security Council in New York, chaired by Barack Obama on Wednesday, in the wake of US airstrikes against ISIS forces in Syria, believes it will be politically impossible for him to proceed without the support of Labour. And The Independent reports that a Syrian Twitter user is believed to have broken news of US airstrikes in Syria 30 minutes before the Pentagon confirmed the military had launched attacks on the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa alongside other countries. The paper adds that the Twitter user named Abul Qadir Hariri said huge explosions had shook Raqqa at just after 2 a.m. local time. He speculated the explosions might be the beginning of US airstrikes on ISIS HQs in Raqqa. Now let's take a look at top Middle East headlines in international papers. From Germany, the Deutsche Welle leads its Middle East news, reporting that the two Palestinian men who allegedly killed 3 Israeli teenagers in June have been shot dead in the West Bank. The paper says the men were killed when a firefight with Israeli forces erupted outside a house in Hebron this morning. And finally, from China, the Global Times reports that Iranian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Marzieh Afkham has said that the parties present in the ongoing nuclear talks between Iran and the six world powers have not reached any agreement on the new proposal of the West as a step to resolve the nuclear issue of Islamic Republic. And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching. Be sure again to join us tomorrow. Bye for now.